Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about equations of lines. Now there's multiple ways to represent the equation of a line, but we're going to focus on what's called the slope-intercept form of a line, which looks like this: y equals mx plus b, where x is your input variable, y is your output variable. M here represents the slope of the line, and b here gives you the vertical intercept, which is the point 0b. Of your line. So that means that your line will go through the point 0b on the graph, which sits on the vertical axis. That's why it's the vertical intercept. Okay, so remember I said that y is your output variable. So that means in function notation, we can write this equation as f of x equals mx plus b. And now what we want to do with this, well, first of all, let me write the name of this form up here, slope-intercept form. And notice why it's called this. Remember I said we have our slope and our intercept. So it makes sense that this is called slope-intercept form. So now let's say we're given some information about a line and we want to find the equation of that line. And we want to find it in this form. So for example, let's say we know that the slope of a line is, say, -1/2. And let's say we're also given that the second coordinate of the vertical axis is 3. And we're asked to find the equation of the line that has these properties. Slope is -1/2 and the y-intercept, or the second coordinate of the y-intercept, is 3. So now we want it in this form, y equals mx plus b, and we're already given the slope and the intercept. So all we have to do here is plug those in. So we get y equals -1/2 x plus 3. And there it is. This is our equation of the line with slope -1/2 and y-intercept 0, 3. Okay, now let's say we're given different information. Let's say we're given 2 points on a line. For example, let's say we're given the point 4, 3, and 1, 2. Okay, so we're told that this line goes through these 2 points, and we want to come up with the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So what do we need? We need the slope and the intercept. Okay, so if you remember from the previous video, or from one of the previous videos, we talked about how to find the slope given 2 points. Okay, and that was given to us by m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so we can label these points here if we want. Let's label this one as x1, x1, y2, x1, y1, and x2, y2. And let's use this formula here to find the slope. So let's plug in y2 minus y1, so 2 minus 3, and x2 minus x1, 1 minus 4. So we get -1 over -3, which simplifies to 1/3. So that is my slope, right? So we found m. So let's plug that into our slope-intercept form. Let me erase this. Okay, so we want this form. We know m now is 1/3. So we have y equals 1/3 x plus b. Now how can we determine b given this information that our line goes through these 2 points? So now remember, x and y, this line here, if a point is on the line, then it should satisfy this equation that I'm trying to find, meaning it should make this equation true. So if these points here sit on my line, then I can just pick one of them, plug it in for x and y, right? Let's just pick this first one here, 4, 3. So I'll plug in my y to be 3, I'll plug in x to be 4. And now notice we have an equation where we can solve for b. Okay, so let's do this. We get 3 equals 4/3 plus b. Let's subtract 4/3 from both sides. We get 3. I'm just going to write it out like this first. And now, how do we subtract fractions? I need a common denominator. So I'll go ahead and write this 3 as 3/1. I'll multiply by 3/3 to get that common denominator of, this is 9/3 minus 4/3 equals b. So you can see that b is equal to, 9 minus 4 is 5 over your common denominator of 3. So b is 5/3. So if I take that and I plug it in for b, I get that the equation of my line is y equals 1/3 x plus 5/3. Okay, so let's say now we're given an equation and we're asked to determine the slope and vertical intercept of the line. So for example, in this equation here, we're given y equals 3x plus 2. Now notice this equation is already in slope-intercept form, right? Which, remember, is y equals mx plus b. Okay, and m is your slope. So what is our slope here? It's going to be 3. And b gives us the point that's the vertical intercept. So here b is 2. So the vertical intercept, which is 0, b, for this equation is 0, 2. So here's our slope, and here's our vertical intercept. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Let's say we're given the equation 3/2 x equals 1/4 y plus 1. Okay, and we want to find the slope and vertical intercept. But notice this equation looks different than the first one we were given, right? This equation is not in slope-intercept form, but we can algebraically manipulate it to turn it into slope-intercept form so that we can easily pick out the slope and the intercept. So let's do that. Let's isolate y, right? Because in slope-intercept form, notice y is isolated. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract. I'm going to move the y term to the left. So I'll subtract 1/4 y from both sides. So I get negative 1/4 y plus 3/2 x equals 1. And we'll move the term with x to the right side. We'll subtract 3/2 x from both sides. So we get negative 1/4 y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1. And now we're almost there, but we need to get y by itself. So here, let's multiply both sides by negative 4. Actually, let's multiply by the reciprocal of 1/4, negative 4/1. On both sides. So here, these cancel. Negative times negative is positive, so we're just left with y. And on the right side, let's go ahead and distribute. Negative 4/1 times negative 3/2. Your 2 and your 4 will cancel. So we get negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, and we're multiplying by x. And negative 4/1 times 1, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done all this canceling because it's a little confusing if we're distributing to that second term there. Let me erase that. Okay, negative 4/1 times 1, well, that's just negative 4. So now we have the equation y equals 6x minus 4. This equation is equivalent to the starting equation that we had, but now it's in mx plus b, or slope-intercept form. So you can see that your slope is 6, And your y-intercept, which is the point 0, comma b, remember, that's going to be 0, comma, negative 4.